Welcome to FitnessProChat by FITEROIC.
And from that moment, Alok, till now, I have not been to any doctors and I don't take any medicine. Every part of our body need to move at least for 20 minutes every day. To see the universe per se, then everything is moving. Everything is in action, right? Anything, if you put in a stagnancy stage, it's not going to grow.
Now, on to the show.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all of you. Welcome to another exciting episode of FitnessProChat with FITEROIC. With me today, joining is Mr. Birendra Singh Negi. Mr. Birendra has been an accomplished author, and today we are going to talk more about his book, and we'll also learn a lot of snippets on holistic fitness from Birendra. So Birendra, why don't you explain to all our viewers and listeners how exactly you got into holistic health and what exactly holistic health means to you?
While working in the corporate world for about over 25 years, I realized at one point of time while working in one of the organizations, SDFC, in about 2016, I was getting my South India tour planning, and I was just sitting on my seat on my desk, and I just bent down to tie my lead, right? And I realized at that point of time, Alok, is that I'm finding it difficult to bend properly, to tie my waist. And my waist at that point of time was about, and I was bulgy also, about 80 kgs at that point of time. So I realized that this is something which is troubling me, and I didn't want me to be into the same league ever again. Although I was perfectly fine, no any health issues per se. But then I decided at that point of time that this is not who I am. This is not who I want to be when I grow. And that is the point of time, Alok, when I decided that I need to take care of myself properly. Also what I realized, Alok, at that point of time is typically being in the corporate world, working in a senior management team, I saw that, not only with myself in my organization, but also in the other organizations where my friend used to work, even now as well, is I found that typically in the middle to senior management level, people are just working, not really, taking care of their health, their fitness levels, right? And if you see nowadays, it's quite common about lifestyle diseases, right? And the diseases which come from all the energies, physical energies, mental energy, every energy is very, very important. So it was there in my back of my mind. But then somehow, while working in the corporate world, it got vanished. And that moment I realized, Alok, that I need to actually change myself. That moment, and then I enrolled myself in yoga, 16. And initially it was a bit difficult for me. For example, I tell you, I was not able to do, more than 5 Surya Namaskars because that was challenging, right? And gradually, so about maybe after 6 months or so, I was doing about more than 100 Surya Namaskars. I was finding difficult to do even 5. So gradually, so it was difficult for me initially because I had to travel a lot. Corporate world, it's all time, challenging times are there. And I was more in sales, probably every day, every week, every month, every quarter was, closing. But then gradually I continued. Even though when I was traveling, I continued. I have my yoga group who keeps talking about asanas, pranayam, how we eat, how do we live, and that's where the holistic thing started coming from. And from that moment, Alok, initially I used to take medicines also, as in I was not well. Let's say I'm even a fever. So this is not, I'm not recommending anybody to not take medicine. Obviously, whatever your doctors prescribe, you must take the medicines. But then from that moment, 2016 onwards, I decided that I'm not going to take any allopathic medicine. It heals it naturally.
Thank you so much for that response, and I would definitely want to highlight your book, which is Fit 365.
Yeah.
And this is one book which actually combines the years of experience that Birendra has put together, and it's Amazon's #1 bestseller, so it's recommended for everyone who is watching this, and definitely, so how did the concept of writing this particular book came into your mind, and when did you conceptualize that, yes, I need to write this book?
So first of all, thank you so much for asking this question. So actually, since 2016, I was, into completely transformation in terms of my physical and mental fitness, right? And while working with the corporate world also. And gradually, in 2020, when I left the corporate world, right, I started getting into deep that in terms of the other aspect of the fitness. So not only just the physical and mental, but also the spiritual fitness and the financial fitness and the social fitness also. So making it all the 5 elements which we say in the universe of fitness actually. And then I thought that while I was coaching a couple of people like professionals and the startup entrepreneurs, I thought that why not to make this available for the other people in the world, right? And
that's true.
And typically I wrote this book to keep in mind the professionals, in the certain sectors, both in private and public sector also. But then it is important it's equally important also for all the professionals.
Yeah.
So that's something which I realized that whatever I've been able to get a breakthrough through my experience over the last 8 years or so, after 2016, I thought let me share this with the other people, what I have done and what I'm doing and how I've been able to get a breakthrough in my overall. So then this came into the picture, and it's difficult to write a book. It took almost about 1.5 years. Then eventually it came through, and 23 October we launched this book, and it's one of the Amazon bestseller. So that's awesome.
I would say there's a much need of something like this right now, because given that you talked about the way things are changing, and especially in the corporate world, there's too much of stress all around. I mean, not only corporate world, it's all around our personal self as well. The aspect from the 5 elements that you have mentioned is physical fitness, and that is something where most of the people, obviously, because of their busy schedule or they are too preoccupied with things going around in their lives, so people are not able to pay attention. How and when do they find to exercise or maybe just go out on a walk? So what your suggestions are to individuals who are caught up in the worldly affairs and they do not find time to exercise or work out?
So it's a great question. Most of the people are stuck up into this, right? So one of the things which I realized, and I follow Sadhguru also and many other spiritual leaders as well. Sadhguru, in one of the talk he was talking about that our body need to move, every part of our body need to move at least for 20 minutes every day, minimum, right? And it's not about just the external body part, but also about the internal, all the internal body. So it's so critical, because if you see the universe per se, then everything is moving actually. Everything is in action, right? Anything, if you put in a stagnancy stage, it's not going to grow. It's actually going to, go into a different stream altogether. Like for example, if water is stagnant, the entire quality of the water is going to go waste. The value of the water will be completely lost. If earth is stagnant, you know what's going to happen. So similarly, if in the corporate world, if you become stagnant in your journey or in your work, you know what's going to happen. There are consequences. So similarly, if we are doing nothing with our body, right, on an everyday basis, body is getting a bit stagnant, and stagnancy is going to create problems later on. So I think that's something which is, so everybody of us need to ensure that till the time we are alive, and we are going to be active till the time we are alive only. Once we are dead, one fine day, that's something which is going to happen all day. So it's important for us to ensure that every day, moment rather, we need to be in action. People who are typical for the professional life, who are having the similar kind of question which you have said, that if they don't have time, like typically in a place like Metro, Mumbai or Delhi or many other places also, people are in a hustle and bustle of catching, transportation, working, times, office, and the other also commitments in life. So, one has to see that all of us has 24 hours time in every day. If you see our Prime Minister, he's one of the role models. He works about 19 hours a day, and he practices all his exercises, pranayama, all the other thing which you do is, prayers and everything put together. So if he is having 19 hours a day, he's into action all the time. Obviously, we can also be into action. So we need to decide, we need to take, even though to begin with it becomes difficult. So in order to inculcate the habit of movement of your body, which is exercise, one can begin with 2 minutes or 5 minutes maybe initially. So to begin with, to create this habit of your exercise, your actions, your body actions, one has to create, by putting in a certain schedule, whatever time is work for you. Whether it's in the morning or in the afternoon or in the evening, it's perfectly fine. So the idea is to really put this in your schedule of everyday basis. And then if one is able to get on that, if you're able to do minimum 5 minutes, then you can gradually increase to 7, 10, 15, 20. So now initially when I started, I was finding it difficult to practice over 10, 15 minutes only. But now every day, a couple of years time, I practice about 2.5 hours every day for my physical, mental, and all the other rituals which I do right now. So that's something which you can build. So whatever works for you, I understand that the time possibility is there for professionals. You decide that whatever time is works for you, like 15 minutes, 30 minutes, or 45 minutes, but you can, but minimum to half an hour to come in hona chahiye.
One topic which everyone is talking about, and people want to adopt some kind of interventions in their life that will help them ease the stress out or maybe take a break from work. So what are your thoughts on mental health specifically, and how do you look at or how do you approach mental health as a scenario wherein how can people actually adopt some kind of practices within their life so that they feel a little less stressed than they are right now?
So, look, again, very, very pertinent questions for all of us, and typically for the professionals to talk about, is that, the kind of a stress which people have because of the deadlines, targets, catching those milestones, per se, with respect to the job or targets or projects. So, one has to see that I need to really find out the questions that what is there which is troubling me, making me mentally stressed. So if you go 20 years back, Alok, there was no word by the name of stress management, right? It has been self-created, and it happens because of certain things which we don't do it, right? Your environment, the work environment of your office or the place you work is one of the greatest aspect of it, of your stress management. The kind of relationship that you have with your boss, the kind of relationship that you have with your job, the kind of relationship that you have with deadlines, right? I think that's something which is very, very critical. At the same time, if you go into detail, then it's very important for us to ensure that what is the environment which I'm able to create with my own self. That is the most important thing. Right? If you see all the successful people, if you talk about, I'm not talking about the people who are successful financially. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the people who are successful holistically. Let's say, for example, if you go and observe people who are spiritual gurus, what kind of a peace and ambience you get while they, trip past you. Pass on you get that kind of environment of
vibe is always there.
The vibes, the frequency. Yes. There are certain practices which they do it, right? Spirituality is one aspect of it. But at the same time, I believe that it's the kind of things which you do with your own self. Like, for example, the kind of things you read. Very important. Very, very important. Right? The kind of scriptures we have. Irrespective of whichever religion you are, but the kind of your spiritual text which you read, the kind of books you read, or the kind of movies you watch, the kind of content which you watch on the social media, the kind of friends you have, right? If you have a 5 friend circle who are a fitness freak, the chance of you being a fitness freak is pretty high. Right? So similarly, environment plays a critical role. It's important that what kind of environment are you creating for your own self, and when you are able to do that, obviously you'll find that you're carrying that kind of aura along with you, right? That's something which we were talking about as saying, the same kind of aura or the frequency or the vibes can be created on self. You realize your own self, right? And then once you're able to do that, the stress will, automatically be away from that. Stress, you have to see that why does the stress occur? It's about when you are actually thinking about something, which is not going to happen. Typically kind of a fear which is there always on your mind, like whether you fear achieving a milestone or fear of you're losing your job maybe. So, those kind of fears, how do we actually able to accomplish that, overcome that fear is when you're mentally stable, when your mind is at peace. So there are certain practices which you need to really, do that. And that's something which is, again, I've written in this book wherein we talk about 7 steps of mind-body fitness for the promising high achievers. People who really want to achieve high in their life, those professionals. There are 7 steps actually, and this is one of the things which is there in part of that. Right? So maybe the kind of rituals which you practice on it every day. And it's not just about once a month or once a week. It's about every day. So I think that's something which one can make it happen. Then, so it's about reading habits, it's about your friend circle, it's about your environment, it's about, the kind of things that you watch, or the kind of a seminar you attend, the kind of people you meet, all the things which matters.
Very important areas that you have touched. And another aspect is you talked about keeping company. And that's where the concept of creating a social atmosphere around us, creating social connections with our friends, families, or finding like-minded people happen. So how or what would you suggest to people who are typically, they are reclusive, they may be socially connected at times, but when they need someone, they do not find someone, right? It becomes very difficult for them to actually reach out to their friends or family and express their feelings. Right? So in those kind of scenarios, how do you feel one should react and one should try and approach this kind of situation so that they can become at least master or lessen the pain that they are going through?
Again, very, very important questions in the current times. Before we actually, come on that, I just want to tell you that, I'm a fan of Rakesh Jhunjhunwala. Because the kind of success which we have been able to call it the Warren Buffett of India, the kind of money which we have been able to generate, through investing is phenomenal, right? At the same time, he died, I think he was 54 or maybe 50, I don't exactly remember. So, but then you've seen when he died, actually, his physical condition was very, very bad. He was not able to get up, so there are a lot of support which he needed actually. And he said that one of the extremely bad investment which he has done in his life is not to invest in his physical fitness, right? So even though he has $1 billion in his account, right? So many companies, but then physically he was absolutely screwed up. He messed with his physical. So similarly, if you are physically fit and you are not having that kind of a money, or you are not having that kind of a health, mental health, also that money is not going to be any use, or your physical health is not. So everything put together is actually aligned with the thing. Now coming to your point of social connection, like all of us as a human being, right, we are social animals. Since the time we are born, initially the kind of a love which is there from your mother, your siblings and your friends. Gradually, typically when we are there in the corporate world, particularly, right, as the relationships. If you see most of the people in the corporate world, typically, you'll find people very successful, but then their careers. At the same time, if you see the personal side of their story, you'll find the problems there, you find issues, and divorces there, you find differences there. So, what's the point of making that kind of money and achieving that great career, and at the same time not able to be there with your family or with your loved ones, actually, right? So, you need to ensure that how your relationship is being there all the time. So maybe the communication is critical. Very, very important. Is that how do you actually listen to your loved ones? How do you listen to your spouse? How do you listen to your kids? How do you listen to your parents? How do you listen to your friends? That's one aspect of it, because we are very, very poor listeners. Even knowing and practicing certain things, I am also not very good listener, but then I am present to that and I keep on developing myself and keep on growing into that aspect all the time. I think that is one thing which we need to all the time learning, that listen to them, what their concerns are, spend time with them, spend quality time with them. Like for example, I'll just tell you, when the mobile phone came, and till last time I had this habit of using my phone all the time, right? Even while having food also, if the phone comes, you start talking while having food also. Which means that I'm actually disrespecting the other people who are there on the dining table with my family, right? And even in the social gathering also, if you see, you are there with the people, having discussions, and you started having the conversation over the phone. So that's which means that you are not giving respect to those people, right? So I think those habits got to be inculcated. So mobile phone, it's a great instrument. It's a great use. But at the same time, I need to ensure that when to use and when not to use. For example, just an example, so my kids, initially they were also, while sleeping, they were watching the mobile phone, watching so many things, matches. Obviously, at the time of when they fall asleep, I know because I was also facing the similar kind of thing. So those kind of thoughts are there in your mind. So proper sleep is not going to happen. So the distance between that instrument was where everybody is having busy with their mobile phone, and they are not having discussion. So the world has actually become closer. We say that world has become very, very closer. But then if you see in terms of relationship, they become far distant. It's a concern. It's a huge concern, right, for the social connection, for the social health, for our families. Really, if you see, India also, gradually it's unfortunate that families also are becoming nuclear. Grow when we are there together. The family is one unit. Then your community, your society is another unit. Your nation is one big unit, and the world is a bigger unit. So actually, we need to be there together, right? So that is something which we actually start, need to be there. Being with the association, part of the association, being part of your community, being part of your family functions. Why I'm saying this typically is while in the corporate world, I miss many of my family gatherings, rituals, marriages. I miss that because I was purely focusing on making money. But now I realize that I was living in a fool's paradise actually. Because the time which is lost actually. And those are the things. And this typically is for the youngsters who are listening to this. Very, very important. Things, you've got to schedule things and it can work. So that's so important. Your parents are very important. Your family is very important. Your kids, your friends, your society, your relatives, very, very important for you. You need not be there away from them.
Absolutely.
So it's very, very critical.
I think you once again multiple aspects which happen around in our life, and you talked about how oftentimes we some of the very key events in our life, because we have our some different commitments, maybe working in a corporate world or maybe engaged with some other work related. So at the same time, it's important that we pay attention to commitments to family, friends, and whatever our social commitments are, because that's where I feel that we are lacking at this point in time, and that's also a cause of stress, and this is also causing a lot of churn within ourselves and maybe leading to some of the other diseases, because most of the times we are stressed. A lot of times we do not have a group of friend circle who can just go in and depend on that. Okay, I'm not happy today.
Exactly.
We remember, I mean, we go back, say, back to 10, 20 years, I would say, to the era where we do not have the mobile phones so much in handy, and very few people actually had mobile phones at that point in time. It was quite easy. Whenever you're happy you did not score a good marks in college, you go and hang out with your friends, you go for have a party, roam around, you just de-stress and come back, right? And now the stress has taken over us. We do not have even time to go out and party around and come back. I mean, yes, we do have our own interventions, people party around and all of that. That's the kind of de-stressing that used to happen. It's like you always have to come back to the same things. Recharging every weekend may not be sufficient for the mind than that we are subjected to right now.
So Alok, I just want to add on here. You're saying you're created beautifully actually. This 5-day-a-week culture or weekending celebration, typically in the corporate world, which we are, or probably I mean in India also we're following the same trend. If you go back to our ancient times, right, where we didn't have a concept of holiday, this concept of holiday had actually been given by the Western world. If you see, every moment was a celebration for us. The kind of a celebration, the kind of festival which we have in our country today.
That's why I think there are so many festivals.
Exactly. One festival, is completed, another is there. So these were the means of celebrations, of being there together as communities, as families, together, of celebration of those things, and at the same time working phenomenally. So work was like doing something, with pleasure, not doing something for the stress actually. The culture of now, so that was being there, deep rooted.
From there, since we are talking about the cultural aspect and festivals, I think one of the connections that we have with festivals is majority of the festivals are spiritual in nature, and spirituality is one of the elements that you have talked about in this book. So how do you see spirituality playing a role? Whichever God we pray to, it's how, according to you, what are the, say, tenets that someone can follow to connect themselves to the spiritual self, or maybe their own inner spiritual self? So
what is my purpose? What is my goal in this tenure of my life in this planet? And that is critical, right? For me, that, is important, and what can I actually contribute for this planet, for this universe? That is my spiritual being. For example, if you talk about a mango tree, right, Alok? A mango tree job is to, no matter what, mangoes every year. That's contribution. Nature of a mango. If you see, let's say ice, nature of an ice to give itself. Or a fire, if you talk about it, the nature of fire is to burn, heat and burn. So as a human being, what is my nature? My nature is to contribute actually.
that's true.
Right? So what I'm here for, so I need to ask this question to myself and everybody of us in this, people who are listening and people who are not listening also. All of us are there in this world. What is that my purpose in life? Whatever, number of years I'm going to live. I'm going to live, by the way, more than 120 years plus. So whichever, that can happen.
Yeah,
but till the time we are there, what is that which I want to do? Right? So I think that is something. So you'll be able to find out this for yourself. The earlier you are able to find out this for yourself, for your life, the better it is there for you. With this, with the practice which you were asking about, Alok, is I found that the various aspect of, I come from a Sanatan Dharma, and other practices which I follow on a daily basis is a meditation, right? To begin with, I started with about a 2-minute meditation, and then I followed about 30 minutes meditation every day, right? There are affirmation exercises which I need to affirm to myself on a daily basis that this is who I am, and that's why I charge myself, my batteries. I visualize myself for my goals, for things which I want, things which I want to contribute in this world on an everyday basis. For example, one of the things which I visualize is how can I contribute to the larger aspect of this world, and when I'm giving a speech in the United Nations, or maybe the US Senate, or maybe to a parliament in India. Those one of the things which I visualize there. I found those things are typically good. So certain thing. Maybe something can work for people, something cannot work for. But then these are three things basically which I do it for my spirituality. Apart from this, like in terms of my people do fasting with respect to making the God happy. But then I fast twice a week. I pray to God. At the same time, one thing which I realize is fasting is a great booster for the health.
It's like you are resetting your body.
Exactly. So that I do it, and I found that it's actually recharged my cells. But then I do that. It's not that I don't do that. But then my purpose is different. My purpose is to how do I actually take care of the body. And that's the reason why for the last 5-6 years now, my weight is continuously about 62-63 kgs or so. Initially when I started it was 78 and 80 kgs. It is stagnant now. So I know what to eat, what not to eat, how much to drink, what not to drink, all those things. So basically when we talk about the 7 elements, this is also one of the aspects which comes to it. The spirituality, all these things come together. For me, spirituality is what is there, the goal is there for your life. Through this podcast, you're going to create the impact out there in the professions. In terms of fitness, the kind of story which you're talking about yourself is phenomenal, and that's where you're coming from. That's a goal which you have set for yourself, right? And you find immense pleasure in doing this. And so similarly, also my job is to make a contribution of more than 10 million people worldwide, so that they can live holistically, all the professions. That's my ultimate goal.
In the insurance sector for long years, 30 years, right? So that's a long time to understand the industry and provide a lot of, say, guidance to individuals. So how would someone, say, balance their financial aspect to the other 4 elements that we have already discussed, right, so that there is a balance between, yes, my finances are good. Now I can also take care of the other elements in life. Yeah. And top priority definitely is the physical health.
So Alok, first of all, when we talk about these 5 elements, right, physical, social, spiritual and the financial, right, what I've seen is at a certain point of time, the percentage of this can increase, but it cannot increase beyond a certain limit. For example, I weigh it at equal. So these has to be at 20%. At times, 20, but then gradually it has to come to 20%. There has to have a balance. Typically is what I've experienced in my life is while working for about more than 25 years in the corporate world, about 2 decades in the insurance business. What I've seen is, I come from a service background, parents being there, the government servant, and typically all my families, we are from Uttarakhand, so maybe most of the people they join or maybe the government service, right? So that's a typical thing. So that kind of fear is always there in typical working professionals. That a fear of losing a job. Mostly what I've seen is we are dependent on one particular income.
Absolutely.
And I realized it in 2016. I was contemplating myself with the physical health at that point of time only, and I started thinking from that aspect. So we need to actually start thinking from that aspect from the day we start actually earning the money, which can be as early as 21 or 24 years of age. The way we start saving, the way we start investing we actually start generating that kind of money. You need to be a financial literate, financially educated. Typically, if you see, go back to the British era, our economy per se, as an economy was primarily we were business class. Every aspect of the business was business only. Work was business only. Typically in a village, if somebody who's preparing a kumar, the barter system was there. Somebody who's having a kisan, a farmer who's producing goods. So everybody was having some kind of a business altogether. That's why we were having, before 1850 or so, we were controlling about more than 42% of the world GDP, right?
That's true.
Close to more than 70% of the people were into the business. And balance only 25-30% were into the job, which has been completely changed by when the Britishers came, right? And while our entire educations talk about the job. So we need to. So I'm not saying people professional working is fine, job is fine. I'm not saying that, but at the same time, in the job also, we don't need to depend on one particular income. You've got to be self-sufficient. That how can we actually generate a different line of income? It's just about a simple example which I'll give you is that. Suppose you are staying in a village, right, and you have a source of water, one source of water. What if that source of water is closed? What are you going to do? The entire village is going to go berserk, right, because the entire one source is closed. But then if there are 2-3 water resources are there in the village, eventually you have one closing, there are 2-3 which are there regularly giving. So I realized that, and I started my investments accordingly. In 2016, I started creating that. And today so I'm still in the process of making those funnels of your money. And then close to about more than 18 income sources which is being created now. Where I was having only one source, now there's about 18 resources which I've created. So So I think that's critical. That's critically important because then you are not stressed out because of that. You are not fear of losing your job because if your one source of income is closed, then you are going to go berserk. So you need to actually start, creating that, and it's not difficult. It's very, very easy.
You have hit the right chords with this, and definitely I want to have another round of conversation around
Absolutely,
that.
absolutely, Alok. And also, I just want to add on there, Alok, is making money is not bad. It's a great thing. If I have a great money, I can contribute. I can fulfill my passions. I can do whatever I want to do. I can travel around the globe, do whatever I want to do. But provided I need to earn that money in the right way, not in the unethical way, but the right way. So that's great. Everybody of us need to make money, but at the same time, not at the cost of your health, not at the cost of your mental health, not at the cost of your family, your ultimate goal in life. Everything has to put all together. This is actually intertwined. So I recommend one of is this book which you have already shown to the viewers, the Fit 365. It's about your fitness every aspect of your life, every day in your life. That you can go through this book. It's available on Amazon. Also, there are two big books apart from this which I recommend to the people. One is Magic by Birendra Singh Negi. That's one of the phenomenal book which actually gives the entire perspective of life. That what you can actually manifest, what you can actually create that. That's one aspect which is a must read for everybody, be it students, professionals or elders, everybody. That's one must book. Second is, one of the book which I recommend is The Checklist Government. That's another book which I recommend. It's phenomenal. It's about scheduling things, and he's one of the renowned doctor in America and Britain. That is one book which I recommend. And the third book is of the James Clear, which is Atomic Habits, which is about how we can actually create your habits, which can actually help you to win in your life. Any of the things which you talked about. So those are the things which these three books along with the Fit 365 which I recommend people to go through that, and it's immense value which these books can give actually. Yeah.
Thank you so much for being on this show, and definitely it's been an enriching experience how to talk individually about different elements in detail in subsequent discussions, and pleasure to host you on this podcast.
Thank you so much, Alok. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
That's a wrap. Thank you for listening to Fitness Pro Chat by FITEROIC. We hope you had key takeaways from today's episode and learned something new. Don't forget to download and subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. And leave us a rating and review on your favorite platform. In the meantime, reach out to us on Instagram @FITEROIC or through our website, FITEROIC.com.